Hey everyone, welcome to, well, do you know what? The very first video that I purposely recorded for YouTube or other video platforms that is for my podcast, but I am doing it video as well. I'm giving this a go. I normally do it as just an audio file, and I think that's a little bit of fear around it. Possibly there'll be more videos on this. I'm hoping this sort of snowballs into creating some more videos as well for you, some more YouTube or, well, say, video platform content. And yeah, the reason I feel little bit scary about this is that on with audio, with podcasts, I know that if I make a mistake, I can have it edited. I probably can with this. So I probably should say that if there is a really weird editing, you know what's happened. And yeah, I've been sharing it on social media recently that I'm not officially diagnosed, but I am 99% certain that I have ADHD, which means my memory is horrendous. So that disclaimer, if it does all go a bit wrong, you know why. But like I say, you've got to try these things. So yeah, today's guest, let's move on to what today's all about. So the very first one for season 2 of my podcast, but also for you guys watching on video, is all about self-love and finding that inner magic, which is what I'm all about. So I'm going to bring on my guest. So we've got Laura Sylvester, and I can't wait for this chat. We connected on YouTube. I'm saying YouTube. We connected on Instagram, not YouTube. So I won't cut that bit. This is another part of this for me is just being a bit more conversational, a bit more natural, a bit more authentic. Because again, that is what I'm all about when it comes to you showing up as your brand. So yeah, I'm going to welcome on Laura, and let's get started. I can't wait for this. Okay, tech side of things. Let's have a look. I'm just going to change my screen slightly. Another thing I should say is it's a very plain screen at the moment. You're going to see something a bit more pink, a bit more sparkly coming up very soon. Here we go. We are hopefully live in a moment. We'll have Laura. Hello. Hi, Laura.
Hi, how are you?
I'm all good. I've just been waffling on. So to people that are watching on video, I've just been waffling on a little bit, and apologies if we're starting a bit afterwards. But I'm just so excited. This is the first one where I've recorded this for video and podcast. So I'm really excited that you're the first guest for that. So
Amazing. I don't know why I kind of thought because it was over Zoom that it was kind of going to be video anyway. So yeah, totally up for that.
you
Yeah, it should be
prepared?
good. Yeah.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, do you know, the original plan years, well, yes, I've had this podcast for a couple of years now, and I always wanted to do video, but I was just saying then on the little intro video that actually I think there was a little bit of fear around that because the audio file you can edit with the video. It's a bit more as it is, but that's part of what I'm doing is stepping more into this. Yeah, just chatting, have a conversation. It doesn't have to be perfect.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I can't wait to chat about this. So what we'll do, I'll let you sort of introduce yourself, Laura. I've just said there about you are all things self-love. We connected on Instagram, and Laura is from my hometown. So well, actually, my hometown is Burnley, but I now live in Preston. So another Prestonian. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, feel free to introduce yourself, say what you're about, and then we will let's just have a nice chat about it. So self-love and finding that magic within.
Yeah, so I'm Laura, or like kind of more known online as Laura Silv. I'm a self-love and empowerment coach for women. So yeah, all things self-love, kind of basically taking people back home to themselves if they've been through like a rough time or they're kind of feeling lost in themselves and just who they are, being able to sort of give them back the confidence and just being able to step into their authentic self without fear of judgment, what other people think, and all of that kind of thing. But yeah, it's kind of based around my sort of battle with mental illness. So it's all come from that. And that's exactly why I do what I do today, is trying to help empower other women to just really be themselves and yeah, just give them that empowerment and confidence back that sometimes, is hard in this day and age.
It really is, and in the digital age, I guess, isn't it? We all feel so judged, and that's why I really sort of connected with you online, where I started to follow. I don't even know how I came across you actually, Laura. I was thinking this that I think it must be as one of the suggestions that somebody I follow or follows me follows you, and straight away I was just drawn into yeah, you stepping into yourself, and you've been through quite the journey that I'm sure we're going to chat about it shortly. But to kind of come out of that and then empower people, I'm always talking about your why you do what you do, and yours is
Yeah.
quite a powerful one, isn't it? That's where it came from. This need, I guess, this need to accept and love yourself. So let's just, as much as you want to share, but if you want to share just a little bit of your journey to start with,
Yeah,
yeah,
so my journey kind of like mental illness kind of started around 2008. In 2009 is when I was diagnosed with anorexia, and then I went into an inpatient setting, and since then it's kind of been quite the battle. I've had various admissions, I've been in and out, and it's not exactly been pleasant, but like throughout it all, I've tried to remain in a very strong headspace. And I think one of the best things that has helped me through is just really focusing on myself, because it's very easy to get lost in what everyone else is doing. There's that competition and comparison, especially in those hospitals. And what I found helped me was just to zone out of all of that and really just put the focus in on myself. Which isn't easy either, because I think a lot of people, especially years and years ago, would see it as being quite selfish or, vain and that kind of thing. But it wasn't really about that. It was kind of drowning out the noise and really focusing on what I needed to inside rather than outside. So yeah, you kind of get to know yourself when you're in those types of places. Like, you kind of, you've got four walls, and all you've really got to do is think. And journaling and reading was like a massive help for me. And yeah, this is kind of why I do what I do today, because I don't sort of do my work around eating disorders or anorexia specifically, but it's more about how it feels to feel like you don't know yourself, and just feeling lost in life, and kind of wanting to reconnect and deepen the connection that you have with yourself. And it's not always easy to do that on your own. I think I got to that point because it was a spiritual awakening, really. You kind of hit that real rock bottom, and then it's kind of like, this is not the life I want to continue to live. So yeah, that's exactly why I do what I do, and just don't want other people to have to get to that point of like really hitting rock bottom before they make those changes, and be able to do that now, before that has to come about.
wow, yeah, that's such a powerful journey, and thank you so much for sharing it. And is that something that over the years that has it always? I mean, I'm assuming the answer is probably going to be no, but has it always been that easy to share? But do you think there's been something in sharing your journey as well, and sharing your story that's helped you sort of to with the process?
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually got Instagram in 2010 when it all
Yeah,
started. Yeah, and I've loved it ever since, because for me, it's always been kind of my personal diary.
yeah,
And it was never really about letting other people see it. In fact, I never told anyone that I actually knew about my profile. It was always very much, it was a place for me to just air what was going on inside. But because it was out and it was kind of in the open for everyone to see, I couldn't hide away from that anymore. So that did, yeah, it did really, really help me. But at the beginning, I do remember, I wasn't very open about it. I think back in 2010, it was still very much not talked about. Mental health was seen as, either a weakness or a failure, or people just thought you was crazy. So it's not something I was very open about then. I just shared the emotion of how I felt, but I wasn't open about what was really going on.
wow, yeah. And it's funny, even I'm listening, I'm thinking I can resonate with that a little bit, as in even though it's an online space and it's going out to potentially, you've got thousands of followers now, and obviously that started as just probably a few people that sort of start to tune in, and I feel like I share more sometimes with online than I do with my family and friends probably, and I just assume they'll probably see it at some point, and it becomes that bit of an online diary. But there's something in that, isn't there? That there's just a power of, and you mentioned it there about when you're in when you're in the places where you're healing from and you journaled, it's just that power, isn't it, of getting it out, I guess. I don't know,
Yeah,
there's just something in that, isn't there?
yeah, there's always a lyric that I refer to, and it's kind of like getting it out. It feels therapeutic because it's kind of like journaling, but it's almost like your every like the entire people that you're putting it out to is kind of not holding you accountable is the wrong word, but you're not hiding. There's nothing that you can you're not hiding from it anymore, because obviously when you journal it's very personal. Only you see it, only you read it or whatever. But when you put it out there, it's kind of like I used to post and then turn my phone over and go to bed because it helped me sleep. It was kind of like I get all of this off my chest and then I'm able to really just to sleep. But otherwise, I think without that outlet, then I probably would have struggled a lot more. So it's been really, there is a lot of things on Instagram that is really showcased as like a highlight and fake and that kind of thing. But for me, it's been the opposite. And I think if you can channel it in the right way, then it's a very, very powerful but amazing platform. It doesn't have to be toxic.
Oh, I love that. I love that message because I feel the same about Instagram, and it gets a lot of there's a lot of insta bashing out there, and probably quite rightly, because I think if you do it, if I don't know, it's not even doing it wrong, but if you're in that wrong sort of space at the wrong time, it can be highly toxic. But to you to find that
Absolutely.
space, I mean, how did in fact, I'm going to come to a question I was going to ask probably way further, but this is the thing. I just want this chat to be really sort of natural, and this is my new sort of style that I'm trying, Laura, but without even any questions prepped. But about trolls, have you had any really toxic experiences and how you dealt with it? Because that to me,
Yeah.
it's so vulnerable what you're sharing. There must have been that fear, and yeah, has it come to light?
Yeah. So it used to be really bad years ago. Obviously, now it's a lot more out there. People kind of realize what it is, and people kind of almost at the point now where they don't dare write anything that's kind of against or that would offend. But yeah, back in the day, um, I used to get all sorts of stuff. I think because as well I wasn't very open, people would definitely comment on my weight. Um, and that used to be incredibly tough because obviously I knew what was going on. It's just that I wasn't, I didn't know these people. I didn't have to justify or share it with them. But then I was very, very still in a vulnerable place, very, very sensitive. And it used to really get to me. I've even had people in the past pretend to be me, but posting all of my pictures where, like, let's say I was in hospital or wasn't very well, and pretended to be me in hospital.
Oh my
Um,
goodness.
which was just crazy. And I've had a few people do that, and it's I just don't understand it. But obviously, you can report them and stuff. But yeah, it wasn't always easy to accept or to see going on. And oftentimes I would be informed by someone else that that was happening. I wouldn't even see it myself. So yeah, but yeah, troll wise, it can be really tough. And I have had some in like the past year or two, and I'm now at a point where I can really just let it go over my head. But
And
I
yeah,
think before I would have really been upset or just gone into myself, being really quite maybe even self-sabotage and just um yeah, be really hurt by it. But now I can kind of just take it with a pinch of salt and it doesn't bother me at all.
that's some skill. That takes a lot of doing. Yeah, I'm just thinking, has there been times where you've come off Instagram because of it? Have you ever, or have you ever wanted to, or have you ever done that where you've just thought, you know what, I can't deal with this right now? Because you still say you're still going through a lot of recovery as well. Has that affected that to that certain extent, or have you just been able to kind of block it straight away?
um I was never like, if I got comments or whatever, I would never like delete or report them straight away. I'd kind of just let them sit there. And for me, rather than drowning it out, I kind of used to try and process it and just let them say whatever it is that they said. And rather, yeah, just I'd try and just really try and process what it is that they're saying. And it could be really hard. But yeah, there are times when I thought I just want to like change my entire identity, want to delete every social platform that I've got and move to a different country kind of thing. But I
Wow.
think one of the hardest but best things is literally just to sit and process what it is that's been said. And now I can almost do it in a very compassionate way. So if somebody does say something against, I can almost see that as pain coming from them.
Yeah.
And yeah, whereas in the past I would have got like really shirty, got my back up, but now it's kind of like, okay, they must have something going on with them and they're needing to project that out onto me. So yeah, I can take it.
Yeah, all of that. And you know what, compassion was a word that as you were chatting came into my head because yeah, I think to be you kind of have to have a bit of a tough shell in this game of being online to a certain extent. And obviously you can go through the journey probably where it does feel hurtful, but I think ultimately to kind of get a little bit further along in your business or whether it's a personal blog, it's having that compassion. And that's what I was thinking the same thing. It's a little bit like I suppose online trolling, bullying. It's being able to kind of deflect it from it being about us, isn't it? And saying it's about them. I
Mhm.
mean, is that a skill that you've just come naturally, or have you kind of done a lot of mindset work as well? I'm assuming you
Yeah,
will have done.
definitely a lot of mindset work. Yeah, that's been like the biggest shift for me over the years is really just working on mindset. I feel like it, especially the past like 3 years, I've done a lot of mindset work and I've done it myself as well. I have worked with a few coaches, which has been incredible, and that has actually been more helpful than working with any therapist that I've worked with.
Wow.
But a lot of it has been, yeah, working either with coaches, a lot of it has just been through reading, and also kind of decluttering all my socials. So unfollowing anything that I didn't find helpful or that didn't serve me, and just really empowering myself with things that did. And yeah, being able to tune it out. But yeah, compassion is like the place in which I operate from for everything. And I'd still say that I definitely don't have a hard shell. I'm still very, very sensitive to things. But I can kind of almost just like, if something comes my way that isn't, it kind of, there's like almost like a force, like a barrier around, and it will kind of
Ooh.
hit. And I can almost stop it, close my eyes, and be like, this isn't mine to carry, and just let it go. But that has taken a long time to be able to do that. But that is where I want other people to be able to do that for themselves. Like, you know, a lot of people take on so much criticism and be really hurt by it. But I want them to be able to do what I can do now. And that's kind of what I want to be able to teach other people.
Oh, I love that. And this, yeah, as we're chatting more and more, you can see that sort of the passion where it comes from. Because that is very much about, I mean, I've connected even recently with Laura. Literally yesterday, you've just announced an amazing, it sounds like an amazing event. And I'm really hoping I could come to this with it being in
I hope you
Preston.
can.
Yeah, oh, I really can't. I'm really hoping it's more like childcare and things like that. Just need to check I can sort all that. But this is kind of what you do, isn't it? And you know, is this your first in-person event? Did you say?
Yeah, so this is the first in-person event. I've done like a few of these online, like over the past couple of years, with obviously being in lockdown and things like that. I'm still very much, I still find doing these kinds of things online very helpful. Like this is kind of how I do my coaching because it allows me to access anyone, anywhere in the world, and I think that's incredible. And you can still get the same kind of result, but yeah, this is kind of like the first in-person thing, and I think it's just really nice to have that real connection with humans. And yeah, I kind of want it to be a really sacred space and very grounding. You know, I kind of want everyone to be sat on the floor on cushions and really connect with the earth and with each other, and just yeah, it's kind of surrounded around like not Valentine's Day, but Galentine's. It's a sister circle, so obviously it's a women's circle, and it's about being able to use our voice and really share what it is that you're feeling at the time, but having it kind of stay within that circle and just having that trust in each other, and yeah, just genuine, authentic connection. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to
Yeah, I'm gonna say me too because I'm manifesting it right now that I can make
it.
this. And you know,
Yeah.
if you follow me on social media, I will be. You'll see if I attend, but hopefully I will be there because it just sounds amazing, and it just sounds So, I mean, needed in so many ways. First of all, I guess, do you know what? I'm guessing from now on, every single podcast episode I do, we probably can't even not mention the word lockdown or anything because it's been such a huge thing. And I think we're also ready for these in person connections,
Mm.
just for the releasing. And it sounds like what you do sounds really releasing. Would you say, it's like internalizing it first, getting, I suppose, the
Yeah.
journaling and then letting it go?
Yeah, kind of really, I think what it is getting out of your head and tuning back into your body because a lot of people don't stop. And it's that moment where you can really stop, really like just feel what it is that's going on inside and letting that come out. And I'll do that through like guided meditation, where you can really just, yeah, get out of your head, relax, get into your body, and see how it is that you're really feeling and have a really safe space to be able to share what it is that's going on and feel supported by other people and just be in that like-minded space. And also there'll be like the cacao, which obviously is like the rawest form of chocolate, and
Ooh.
it's a real great heart opener, and who's not to love it? So that's going to be amazing as well.
You've mentioned chocolate, Laura. I'm there. Doesn't it? I think that's all you have to say actually in your socials is just roast chocolate there.
Yeah.
We'll all be there. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, I'm saying hopefully I can make it. But I think what I'm thinking there is, and this is again why I wanted to chat to you because what you're almost a step before what I do. So I always say that I'm hoping people have kind of worked on the mindset a little bit, worked on that self love, and if they haven't, it's not almost. I don't really say right, you've got to do that first before we then put that into your. I hate the word brand in a way. I always say this, but I say it's almost like sharing the magic that you're talking about, that self love, that really inner connection, and be able to share it with the world and strategizing it a little bit. But you're that step before, and that's why I was sort of just really wanted to chat to you about this. But what's coming up for me, what comes up for me, and I'm sure it comes up for you, is a lot of resistance to that about being authentic. Authentic is a bit of a buzzword. It's become a bit of a buzzword, but really that's what we're talking about, isn't it? Really tuning into you, finding that inner magic, I call it, to be able to then share it. But how do we get to it to start with? So yeah, let's talk about that, about any resistance that you felt when you were doing this and that you come across with your clients, because I'm guessing there's a lot, and there's probably a lot of tears as well, is there? Let's talk
Oh
about that
yeah,
as well.
a lot. Yeah, there's a lot of resistance, and I think it's because people push down how it is they really feel all of the time. Like people won't really share how it is that they really feel. And I've just put up like a reel today actually on that and saying, we kind of suppress all these emotions because it's easier. Whereas actually looking at ourselves and what is actually really going on, it's hard because it brings up a lot of emotion, a lot of suppressed feelings that maybe have been pushed down for years or maybe all your life. And when they come to the surface, it's not easy to deal with. But once you kind of get over that hurdle, it's like the best feeling in the world. But yeah, that resistance is there. And I think that's why it's so great to have like a coach or someone like that, because you're working with someone that has already been through it, but
Yeah.
also has developed the mindset and has the skill to really support you with that compassion. And obviously, like yourself, you're doing it one step ahead, and it's kind of like you've already done that, and you've done that. You've got that self-love and you can really be there for that person. But yeah, so for me the resistance does come, and I think it's then just about being gentle with them, being patient and asking the right questions and just taking it at a time, like at a pace that feels comfortable for them, in a way that they want to kind of move forward. Yeah, but the resistance is massive. And you know like I feel like growth is such a thing where it's continuous throughout life. There's always going to be, you'll kind of get to one point and then there'll be a little bit of resistance again, and then you'll move over that and there'll be that resistance. And it's just about accessing what it is that's going on for you, what it is that's stopping you. Like, what is it right now that's stopping me from moving forward? And just addressing those things, and maybe and then working on that at that time and taking those steps. But rather than being like, I feel like this right now and I want to be that and I must be that like tomorrow, it doesn't happen. You've got to do the work along the way. And it's not always as fast as you want, but it's so worth it.
Oh yeah, I'm so glad you've mentioned that. Again, very similar to what I do. It's that step by step. It's never
Yeah.
going to be, you're never going to be healed in overnight. You're never going to be a success overnight. It's having that compassion to go step by step. And I guess, do you find this as well? I find this with what I do a little bit, but I'm just thinking personally as well, that sometimes you almost feel like you can only go so far at that stage in your life, even if you know there's deeper to go, there's more
Oh
to
yeah.
heal. How does that present itself? Again, it will a lot in your work, but how do we deal with that when we feel it's knowing where the resistance ends and when we shouldn't push it too much further?
Yeah, I think I think it's again, you feel it in your body. So it's that gut feeling. It's kind of, I think to an extent, you've got to go just a little bit into that fear zone
Yeah,
or else you'll never get out. But I think there is a point where you don't want to push too much because it will just, maybe unravel or uncover too much. And it's not helpful as well. If it does go too deep, you might not have the resources around you to support you on that. So it's just doing it little by little, isn't it? Like we said, step by step, because yeah, it's kind of like you don't want to go from like one extreme to the other where you kind of putting on this mask and you're pretending everything's fine all the time to suddenly like going as deep as possible and uncovering all of the trauma that you've ever faced or whatever it is. It's just about like starting small and asking like one question first and then working on that.
yeah. The word trauma is huge there, isn't it? Because I think we've all probably got these hidden traumas somewhere along the way. They're not always as obvious as we think they are. Some people can have huge traumatic experiences, things they're battling continuously. Other people can have things, I guess, that they don't even realise was traumatic and it's coming out. And that's what, as I'm listening to that, I'm thinking, yeah, if we push too far, I guess it's all just going to go completely
Good.
back into yourself. Is that what you find, that people come so far to you and then probably retreat?
It can end up being more detrimental than good if that is the case, because then they're in a state of that fight or flight mode and that panic, and it's hard to get out of. And especially if you're kind of doing work like online and you're not able to support the person properly in person, then it can be really hard. So this is why as well, like there are so many coaches out there, but it's about you building a real connection and relationship with the person, because there are a lot of people that don't, they'll be really good at like promoting themselves or whatever, but they don't have the actual skill set or the mindset or the actual self-love work to actually deal with these. So if yeah, just to warn anyone is just to do your research on who it is that you're working with. It doesn't always mean to say that they'll have certifications or qualifications, but it like what's more profound is the journey they've been on and what they know, and how they can support you. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's a big thing in our industry as well.
Huge. And that even spills into what I do, because sometimes I'll be telling people that, well, I'll say, right, we're going to dig quite deep to get to what your story is, your journey. And again, even I've got to be really aware, and I think this is good for anyone listening, that probably is a lot of coaches, entrepreneurs that do this sort of work with people. It is, I have had to like, refer people probably if it gets too deep, and I'm thinking, look, it is part of your story, but I can't go that deep with you. And then referring, and I guess probably same with you, if too much trauma comes up, it's knowing where to cap that, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, because some people will try and take it all on and they're not equipped to deal with it. And that can actually result in making that person worse. So it's important that, I'm sure like yourself, like we have that good boundary where if it does feel like it's going a little bit too far or out of depth for yourself to handle, then you send them to somewhere that will be able better equipped to deal with that, so that they remain supported and safe, rather than pretend that you can solve all their issues and take money and all of those things. That's why, yeah, just always make sure that you really connect with the person that you work with.
Yeah.
um, and yeah.
Yeah, connection is key. And do you know what, it's funny, I think connection, compassion, all these words, we're so in tune, Laura. And I think this is again why I sort of really felt drawn towards you, that the big things, compassion, connection, if you kind of get that right, I think you naturally know how far to go with people anyway in that journey that you kind of both on together.
Yeah.
and it's that trust as well. But let's talk about it. I'm just going to, because I'm going to up on one there a little bit, but let's bring that back to when you're working with people, or whether you want to put this to yourself. And if we're talking about that's that, you know, it's the self-care and finding your magic, that magic within. Again, I think I was drawn to one of your posts that said about the, I can't remember what it says now, I like to quote it, it was about the magic inside, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And how do we start to get there? So if we are talking about, you know, anything too traumatic, again, people go to the right person for that. But if they just sat there really lost and thinking, what is it about me? You know, especially in terms of showing up online, sharing our story. And you'll probably have this with yourself, whether it's just in life and they get to that point where they just don't know what they're about anymore. Maybe people have lost their way a little bit. As a mum, I have a mum of three, and I've definitely felt that.
Yeah.
Where do you start with people? Or, you know, I know you say about journaling, but is there a few tips we can give to people to really start accessing your inner magic?
Yeah, I think I was literally just going to say like journaling is one of the biggest things, but I think before that, what you need to do is kind of drown out everything around you.
Yeah.
Really just get yourself in a nice, quiet, safe space that you feel comfortable. Like I'd say the environment is also important just to make sure that you feel really good in the space that you're in. There's no distractions, and you can really just like ask yourself questions, and that is hard, and I think that's why like journaling prompts help. So you can either find them online, or if you're working with a coach, obviously they'll provide them. But other things I think before that as well, because journaling is difficult, is maybe just get some books that like the self-help books or something like that. I think one of the good ones to start with, which is really easy to read, is the Vex King Good Vibes Good Life.
Oh,
um so yeah, that was like, I think that is a really good starting point for anyone, because it's not too in your face. The language isn't crazy, it's just a real feel good kind of book. But yeah, I think drowning out everything that's going on around you, unfollowing things that are unhelpful, um, and just sitting with yourself, seeing if you can maybe just sit for 1 minute without your phone, without any noise, without the TV on, and sit in silence and see how it feels. And it's difficult, but you'll start to notice that things will start to come up.
mm,
Those things that, may be ignored or pushed away during the day when you're busy, like feeding the kids or taking them to school or whatever. If you can sit in silence for like 1, 2 minutes, you'll start to notice things that come up. And that technically is meditation. People
yeah.
think it has to be sitting in lotus position for like an hour in silence, and it's not. It's more just self-awareness and being mindful, and just, yeah, just avoiding like distractions and just seeing what comes up. But yeah, it's hard, and I think it all starts with self-awareness, and by getting self-awareness is by being able to just switch off from everything else around us.
Yeah, I guess in a way, self awareness. When we talk about, I like all the selves. I'm always saying about self trust, self love, self worth,
Yeah.
self awareness. Okay, it's probably the starting point, isn't it? Before
Yeah.
even self love, it's kind of being aware that something needs to change, or like you say, what is it I need to listen to? What do I need to tune into? And
Yeah.
I love time to myself. I've not a problem with sitting down and just having that time to
Yeah.
myself. But I think that's because I'm possibly introvert. I've been really chatting about this recently, and I've got a guest coming up. Actually, I'm interviewing her tomorrow about putting yourself out there as an introvert. How do you find that? Actually, I'm going to go off on one in a different conversation here, but even that, you know, when people are quite introverted, they're probably quite good at that, aren't they? But when
Yeah.
somebody's extroverted, and I think there's a misconception around extroversion anyway, it's not about being outgoing, it's about just not liking the alone time as much, do they? They kind of need to be with people. So
Yeah,
is
that's
there,
like that recharge.
yeah, so when people don't necessarily need that, and you've probably got that yourself, or then again, I'm all about dream client attraction. You probably quite like attract like-minded, but where's that step where people are just so busy, whether it is from trauma, whether they are an extrovert and they just can't sit down and find that time, even though they know they should? How to do it?
Yeah, I think it's knowing that you want to change.
Back to that
Is the first,
self-awareness.
that yeah, there's that first step. I think you get to a point where you start to think like, you know, all of this partying or whatever, it's just not serving me anymore. There's got to be something else, and it's hard to get out of, because it's what you're used to, it's what your friends know you for, as this big party animal or whatever it is. And you kind of, yeah, you just get to a point where you're kind of, it's just not serving you anymore, and you want things to change. And I think that's kind of, that is the first step. There's that awareness that something doesn't feel right anymore. And it's funny actually, because I've got a friend that I met last year on an NLP training course, and she's kind of opposite to me. So I'm massively introverted and she's very, very extroverted. And it was kind of almost fate that we met, because we were opposites, and she's learned a lot from me and I've learned a lot from her. And she's kind of been going a little bit deeper into herself in the past few months, and she's now feeling like she's on this new path. She would drink quite a lot because she only thought she could have fun if she drank, and now she's kind of not drinking at all, but she's still like life and soul of conversation or whatever. She's still got all of the energy, but she feels so much better for it. So I think it's just realizing that you don't need these things to get by, or just realizing that you want things to change, or you want more from your own life.
Love that. So I guess a tip there is actually, if you're an introvert, is to find an extrovert friend and learn from them. But there is so much to learn from that, because it's easy to kind of close off and think, oh, I just want people that are like me in my circle.
Yeah.
And that, to me, I suppose extroverts have always not scared me, but that's probably the wrong word. But I've always found myself kind of probably backing away a little bit more, because I'm
Yeah.
like, you do, don't you? So I think to be drawn towards that and to learn from them is probably the way to go. But I love that we're going into again probably deeper territory here, but that mask that people put on, and this kind of comes about with how you show up online as well. If you are sort of like the life and soul of the party, or you want to be high energy, a lot of coaches just want to be almost bordering into like toxic positivity. Let's talk
Yeah.
about that, because I think that starts to touch into like this finding your magic and self-love, isn't it? Because it's almost like you put on this mask and you want to be seen a different way. How do you find that?
Yeah, I feel, just coming on to like self-love and that kind of thing, there's so much of a buzz, like you were saying about buzzwords before. I think a lot of people are like, oh, your authentic self and self-love is amazing and all of that kind of thing. But it's always posted on like, I don't know, Mental Health Awareness Day or whatever, and then it's forgotten about.
Yeah.
And people aren't really showing you how you can do it or what it really means. It's all very surface level. And it's basically just, I don't know, like connecting to yourself. But I think ultimately it's just being yourself. Whatever it is, if you make a mistake, if things go wrong, it's about owning that and just knowing that you are human at the end of the day. A lot of people that do put on this big front or big mask, I think it's just about not being afraid to be yourself, and I think we are stepping into that territory. More people are doing it, but I think there is still a lot of work to be done. um but
Yeah.
I think, yeah, people are learning.
Yeah, I think this is it. I think we've come so far with it. The
Yeah.
online space to me, I mean, I many years ago I worked in fitness and I saw it a lot in there. You'd have the people that were ripped and looked perfect, and didn't dare share if they had a cheat day, or if they had a bit of a bad time of it, or if they gained a bit of weight. And that's the physical side. But I guess we're going towards that in the more emotional side. So when people just say, the big gurus, sometimes it is very much in your face, brash. My life is amazing. Yeah, you're rolling your eyes there. For maybe on the podcast, on video, you'll see that. But I rolled them with you then, Laura, because it can come across as just really fake. And to me, people sometimes can. There's people like myself and you that have done that work where we can step back and go, that's not real. But for people just starting their journey, they might just get totally sucked into that. And that's what I'm not so keen on. I think it's just that being real, but how do you kind of differentiate it sometimes whether people are being genuine online?
Yeah, it's hard, and I'm just about to maybe go off on a little tangent, but I went to a retreat in Bali at the beginning of 2020.
Wow.
And yeah, it sounded incredible. It was called the Magic of Being a Woman, and the person that was hosting it seemed incredible. I saw her online. She was almost a bit like guru type, and I thought, wow, like everything that is going to be there is going to be incredible for like taking me even further on a healing journey. And when I got there, because I'm very intuitive, I can read people very, very well.
Ooh.
Um, I could sense that this woman was not authentic, and it scared me. And even in the first kind of hour, there were things that she did and said that I didn't resonate with. And I thought, am I in the right place? And a lot of the other women there were very vulnerable. They'd just quit their jobs, they'd just ended the marriage, and they was looking to this woman for help, really. And I could see through them, and I could see through her, and she was kind of being the guru, being this leader. But everything that she was feeding them was toxic positivity.
Oh,
And it was very scary to be around because I could see what was happening, but it wasn't my place to call her out. And I thought if I stayed at this retreat, then it was going to make me worse when I'd gone there to further enhance my healing journey.
yeah.
And so I left. I didn't even stay 24 hours. And I actually got a flight back, and I went to Bali solo. That was my first solo trip, and it ended within like 3 days,
Yes.
which was a shame. But at the end of the day, I'm proud that I was able to see what was going on. But the other women, unfortunately, couldn't because they was in that vulnerable state, and they stayed. I don't know what happened with them, but yeah, it's hard, and you've got to. I think you've got to have a lot of like inner intuition, and be able to kind of see through people, and it's not that easy, but at the same time that's how we learn through trial and error. And even though I had that intuition, I still believed in this person before I got on the plane, but it was
Yeah.
only until I got there that I realized it was false. And so you kind of have to learn sometimes from the experiences. It's not always going to be straight away.
Wow, and that's a long way to go for it as well. If it's a Zoom seminar or something, you can just log off, can't you?
Yeah.
But to
Yeah.
actually go to, and that's scary in a way because I think we've all been there. And the fact that you believe so, to me, that's almost, it's really difficult because I'm saying about personal brands and showing up and almost like choosing what you want to show.
Yeah.
But that's the danger of just showing that positive, high energy side if you're not vulnerable and share your realness as well.
Yeah.
Because you obviously, like I say, essentially bought into that and went all that way. And that's just, and you're quietly, high intuition as well. That's a hard experience, isn't it?
And just touching on that, a friend actually said to me the other day, we was talking about Instagram, and they was kind of saying maybe you need to be like more positive and share like more positive things, because a lot that you share is, sometimes not depressing but kind of negative or like low vibe, or you can talk very quiet. And in the past I would have been like, oh my god, right, yeah, okay, I need to change this about myself. And
Mm,
I just sat there, shook my head and said, I'm not changing who I am.
love it.
Like this is who I am, and if people like or resonate with it, then that's fine, but I'm not going to put on this front of somebody that I'm not. I think it's important to share the good, the bad, the things that aren't going so well. And I said I speak quite quietly, and that's because I'm quite a reserved person naturally, but the people that also are perhaps a little bit like that or like me will be drawn to that, whereas somebody quite outspoken or very loud, they'll be drawn maybe to someone else. Or it could be the opposite way, somebody who is like that but wants to learn more about themselves would be drawn to that and take inspiration from that. So yeah, I was kind of like, changing myself is not an option.
No, oh, thank goodness you're sticking to your guns. But like I said, that's part of your journey to get to that stage.
Yeah, yeah,
But that's it, isn't it? And so again, people listening, it's so difficult depending on which stage you're at your journey to whether you take that on or like I say, you've got that shield that you mentioned at the beginning to not let that in. Because like I say, yeah, changing for people. I mean, I always say about dream client attraction, people are going to be drawn to your energy regardless. And that doesn't have to be high energy. That can be and you know, as you said that, and I'm just going to say it because it was a family member a few years ago. So when I did work in fitness, and I had a similar experience. So I actually got a phone call, and it was like, "Oh, are you sure you should be sharing that? It's you're in fitness. It should be happy. It should be energy. People don't want to hear about your problems." And I sort of second guessed myself for a little bit. But actually,
yeah,
just like you said, I sort of went into myself. I probably did journal around it, or I definitely thought it through. I thought, no, it's interesting. The word you said there that somebody said to you, that depressing or low vibe. to me, it's just real, and the world doesn't have enough of that online. So I think for what you're doing, Laura, I think it's just a huge thank you, I guess, from you, from all your followers probably as well, that you do let people in, that you do share the realness. That's all it is, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the same goes for you in terms of like the fitness side. I think everyone probably seems to think that everything looks good all the time, and but it's not like that. Real life is not like that ever, anywhere, and it's important to share that. And it's not to say that I'm going to share everything that's always bad or depressing or low vibe. It's just about me sharing what's actually really going on. You know, it could be that you're feeling low vibe for a day, but it could be a week or a month, and that's okay. Like
Yeah.
everyone moves through things at a different pace, different time. So just I think the biggest message is just do you, you know?
Yes. Yeah, that's it, isn't it? Because even as you're saying there, and this is a question that comes up a lot for me, and I think I've done some solo episodes on this about how personal should a personal brand be? How much do I share? Because some people, there's things they will want to share, and I guess that's the same for you. That as much as you share your journey, there's probably things that you keep private as well, and that's okay, isn't it? You don't have to share everything. Where do you find that for yourself personally? Where do you find that line for you, where it feels right to share and that thing that you just keep to yourself?
Yeah, I guess everyone is different. So what I share, somebody else might find really daunting and they would never share. Others might share even more in depth than I do. But I think it just comes down to how it feels for you and not doing it because you want other people to react to it. It's got to come from you. Um, there was something I was going to say then that was quite powerful, but it'll probably come back to me. But yeah, it's kind of just I think what it is knowing where your specific boundaries are, where they lie. My boundaries will be different to someone else's, and it's kind of like this is how much I'm comfortable in sharing. And it's not that I am lying about anything or I'm keeping anything back. It's kind of there has to be, a point where there are things that is too much perhaps to share. And I think for me, too sharing something that I think is too much is what I'd say would be triggering for someone else. And that is not what I want to do. I don't want to trigger other people so that it is a detriment on them. And that's where my boundary kind of lies. That I know what would be potentially harmful to someone else, and that's when I will hold back.
Wow, yeah, and that's back to that sort of compassion, I guess, is at your core.
Yeah.
If we were to look at your values, I guess compassion is probably at the absolute heart of your
Yeah.
values, because that must be difficult because you're sharing essentially a vulnerable journey, aren't you?
Yeah.
So to be able to kind of hold back on parts, but I think that's key for you listening. It is just, and there's a saying, isn't there? There's a saying about only be able to kind of take people as far as you've been, but also as far as you want to go.
Mhm.
And I guess that's comes back to that intuition. Would you say that's sort of getting back to you?
Yeah, and I think it comes down to like what this podcast was all about is that magic within.
Yeah,
Everyone's magic is different, isn't it?
yeah,
So it all comes down to what it is that you want to share. But yeah, ultimately people might share too much, but for me it's and that's up to them. But for me, I've got to do it in a way that I know I'm not going to cause any harm or offense or have detriment on anybody. And that's my but that's me. Other people, I will find things triggering other people might post, but that isn't their fault. That's
yeah.
up to me to deal with. In the past it would have been like, oh, they shouldn't share this, or like I find that, but somebody else might actually find it quite helpful. So the you do have to kind of step back and be like, this is mine to deal with, not theirs. It's not their fault. So even if I was to share something that was potentially triggering, or I could share something now that somebody finds unhelpful, but that's I used to feel responsible for their feelings or how it affected them, but now I know that that isn't really to do with me. It's not my place or problem to address or be held responsible for how it is for someone
Wow.
else.
Yeah, I love that. And that it's not letting that fear of that hold you back as well, is it? It's
Yeah,
having your own boundaries, working on you. I'm just going to sort of round up here a little bit, but
yeah,
to me, I think, yeah, a lot of people then fear sharing their voice and sharing their story in fear of upsetting people, in fear of the judgment. But to me, it's almost like, well, again, back to find that inner magic. And then my next step is all about then knowing how to share it. It's that sharing that's, oh, my voice good. That sharing that's key, isn't it? Don't keep this to yourself. There's people that you can actually really help with your
Yeah.
story.
Yeah. And yeah, so just like you said, summing it up, I think there are times when I still feel fearful that I might upset someone. And I think it is really difficult to know who it is that will or won't. And that's why you've got to listen to yourself and do what it is that's best for you at the end of the day. Otherwise, we'd never say anything.
Exactly. Yeah, we would just silence ourselves, wouldn't we? That's the crazy thing in this journey. It's normally ourselves that hold ourselves back, as
Yeah,
you know.
exactly. Yeah,
And
yeah.
do you know what? We've rounded it off so nicely there, but there's one question as part of this new season 2 of my podcast that I'm going to be asking every single guest because I am all about it. So finding that inner magic and knowing how to share it. Sharing is key, and I'd love to know, Laura, to put you on the spot. Sorry, you're the first one. This is you're the guinea pig, I'm afraid, Laura. I'm just trying this out. But about what is your magic?
My magic is, I don't know, I think within me or just in general.
Whichever way you want to interpret it. I guess the work that you do, I think it's in Gay Hendricks, The Big Leap, he calls it your zone of genius. I sometimes call it your brilliance. What is that magic within you that people feel drawn towards?
I think that real person
Yeah,
behind the flesh, um, and truly being able to transform people's lives into helping them be who they really are at the core.
love that. So I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but how was that? Do you know what? Actually, for people listening and watching, because like I said, I do this all the time. I drive people crazy. I ask about what is that transformation. In a way, that's kind of what I've just done. Is transformation of working with you, finding that magic, and how did that feel? Sort of saying that out loud.
Yeah, amazing. Like, I think this entire episode has been absolutely incredible. And I think even just this one episode has the potential to help so many people or even just inspire. I think I definitely want to watch it back. I think it would even help me
Yeah.
on days where I might not be feeling so great. But yeah, I think it's this in itself has been magic.
Oh, amazing. I love that. Yeah, that sounds sums it up so nicely. And a confession. I've said this confession before, but I will be watching this time as well. I actually do listen to my own podcast and I probably will be watching it. You have to. I think you have to sort of keep in tune with your journey as well, don't you?
Yeah,
So,
brilliant.
oh no, I've loved that. And yeah, thank you so much for sharing your journey and for just doing what you do because I think the world and definitely the online world needs much more of you, Laura.
Yeah,
It needs much more real. And I think that's what I'm going to take from this conversation.
amazing. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, my absolute pleasure. We will chat, I'm sure, very soon.
Yeah.
See you soon,
All right.
Laura. Thanks everybody for
Bye.
watching. Thank you.